the McKinsey report.
Let's hop over. Yeah.
That it is this idea of, the title of this McKinsey report is Empty Spaces and Hybrid Places, the Pandemic's Lasting Impact on Real Estate. I'm glad I caught this. This came in last week. McKinsey casts a large shadow as the oldest and largest of the big three consulting firms, and their analysis, I think it deserves some coverage here. If not for the quality of the material itself, then for the business decisions that it is generating as McKinsey consultants advise companies and governments.
Do you think how many consultants they had involved in this image?
I don't know.
Is this what is this? Is this it's not, probably not AI. What is this?
It looks almost too perfect to be real, but
it's not. It's definitely not real. Anyway, but I mean, they've got the live walls and this guy in the office having fun. What is this about? Is this the lip work play?
This is a lively commercial. This is a lively commercial center where a hybrid environment of office, apartment, and retail is creating something that is more resilient than a monoculture of office buildings.
Oh, so we're looking into the future. I see. Yeah. Matt, you got it down. So they've got their what store? Is this a bookstore? Is this a painting store? Abstract art? Jackson Pollock store? Is that what this is?
It looks like they've got some kind of brewery next to
Cafe
it.
Moon, fine. Yeah,
cafe. In the background, there's balconies and apartments. They're living, they're buying, shopping, working, everything's there.
All very green. We're in our green spaces. And this guy's getting some done in the boardroom up there. Looks like he might be throwing a rock at the window, maybe trying to break out.
Yeah,
but so McKinsey, they're obviously so smart. People pay them stupid money for their fancy PowerPoint presentations.
Shaping nations. But really,
what do they have to say?
So good. We don't really have to actually look very far for the thrust of their article. It's in the title. Empty spaces.
Do you think people are paying like hundreds of thousands of dollars basically for this information that they could just read in this report?
Yes.
Like there are companies that are like, tell us what we need to do on hybrid work, and they're like, sure, we'll take your business, and then like we've got this PDF you can just read.
I don't trust a PDF. I want you to come in here in person. Like
I need to see the slide deck.
Yeah. There's so many bright-eyed, very well qualified consultants that are, I think, in regurgitating a lot of the insights here. And again, their point is empty spaces, those are the empty office spaces, and hybrid places, those are hybrid work places.
So this is an empty office?
Yeah.
Here, Matt.
Getting ready to become maybe something else. And that's one of their points, actually. And I love they do actually come out against office to multifamily conversions, which is great. But their at-a-glance summary is really helpful, just to kind of get a general idea of everything. And I'm kind of going to give my response here. So they say hybrid work is here to stay. It's not the first time we've heard something like this is a more useful as like a solid claim. We're at a point where we're seeing louder voices calling people back to the office. And I'm sure McKinsey has heard their fair share of bosses saying the same thing. The fact that they're taking a stand saying...
What do you all think about this, McKinsey?
Yeah. And they're not only saying that people are not coming back to the office, their projections are 19% down by 2030 in their moderate projection and 30% in their severe projection. So it's going to last. The hybrid work is here to stay.
It's maybe a new form where we've thought about it, but hybrid work's been here for a long time. It's now a new reality and a new standard, it's less of a unique situation, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that and maybe that would be a better way is like this increase in hybrid work isn't going to erode at the level that people may have thought or that people are going for, which I think is a pretty strong stance to take, because it did seem like there's growing voices, and I think there's an outside shot that office demand may come back a little bit more, but I think their point is still valid. We've seen a cutoff in office demand that will never come back.
Yeah.
The ripple effects is their next point. Really good point. And their summary comments really focus on declining downtown retail markets, but I think it goes beyond retail for sure. And some of their detailed commentary does talk about other places, but really they're focusing on retail spaces. And that's their next point, is that demand for office and retail space in superstar cities will remain below pre-pandemic levels.
So you don't have people at the office taking a break, shopping.
They're not going to shop. They're not going to the restaurants. And maybe hotels, I would think hotels, convention centers, those those demand may be lower, although
that are more focused on business travel.
Maybe. I don't know about
I mean, we obviously the pandemic's a big hit to that, and it has not it's come back, but not the same level, because I mean, people do want to go out, meet clients, meet partners, but there's still a lot of meetings that are done virtually now. I mean, the pre-pandemic video calls, I mean, it's hard to realize they weren't very common. I mean, I remember being on kind of the first few Zoom calls just before the pandemic, and they weren't standard by any stretch of the imagination. It would have been a little bit. It would have been novel to a lot of people prior to the pandemic to be like, hey, let's hop on a video conference together. For our first meeting, let's hop on a video conference.
Yeah.
It would have been like a little much. It would have been like, let's just have a call.
Yeah.
Let's get together for coffee. But now it's like, no, but now it's kind of what is expected.
Yeah. It did supercharge a lot of things, and they got a lot of, systems in place that wouldn't, that probably we wouldn't be where we are right now. I think that when you're looking at the real estate, I think that everything seems to follow the fact that all these people aren't gathering in an office, whether they're taking on more video calls or whatever. They're not gathering in the office, so not leaving, they're not going to the surrounding area. This whole space itself is devoid of activity, devoid of foot traffic, and they do talk about how online sales have cut into retail. I think it's just a lot of this has got to be foot traffic. You're not in that space. I think I would 99% of the time I'd rather go into a store than order something online.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm close to it. So there's a little bit of a chicken and the egg. Maybe they did it more online because they weren't downtown as much. But they get to really what they talk about the most, and I think what's most interesting here is what makes a downtown succeed, what makes it not succeed, and how can we kind of force the success.
Yeah.
They talk about how real estate is local, which I'm going to give them a pass to that, because not everyone is. McKinsey's writing to an audience that maybe not real estate professionals, that they don't know that real estate is locally diverse. But their answer is a little more interesting. They're saying that cities and buildings can adapt and thrive by taking hybrid approaches. So mixed use buildings, and maybe we know about mixed buildings. In multi-use office and real estate and retail space, those are noted in the summary. But I want to kind of drill down to their specific comments, where they talk about not only just mixed use, but a building, something where a building can be retail for one tenant, and then next it's apartments or an office. Something where you build a new building that is more flexible to different kind of tenants. Rather than it is a dedicated office building. It is a dedicated this.
And I think that's started to really happen. I know a lot of developers who are office developers who are building a lot of optionality into the design. And they're like, okay, let's build this office building, but knowing the challenges of like the office to multifamily conversions today, let's build this. But like, what if we wanted this to be a living space, an apartment? Could it be converted into an apartment? And let's say even like halfway through, we're not getting any interest in our office, we can pivot, do a hard pivot. And the same thing with, retail or, whatever it is. Like, how do we have flexibility?
Yeah. And it's like, they're probably more expensive on the front end to build that building that can fill many uses, but they're seeing the risk of, emptiness. Which is probably a lot more key.
And I'm sure that'll smooth out over time when we have a better understanding of what the demand is for office. But like right now, it's this is what I know how to build, but I don't know if anybody wants it. So like, I mean, it's cases where like the deal was already in, the development was already entitled. They're like going down the road, and they're like, I don't know if we, should do it this way. Like we're already kind of pregnant with the idea and the project, but like, can we make some changes so where we can pivot if we need to? Like, how do we turn this thing into condos? Add more retail.
I think it's smart. I think that there are some buildings probably where it does just make a whole lot more sense to build it for a single particular use, but not only on the building level. And I do like this point though. They do note office to multifamily conversions, and they kind of put the kibosh on it. While their sample size is limited to superstar cities, they find that if all the excess office space were converted to housing, you would only increase housing supply in these cities by 2.6 or less, often much less. That's a powerful point. Even if we had the means to convert all of these empty office spaces, which we don't, and even if all these office spaces were able to be converted into apartments, which they're not, would still add a strikingly small amount of existing housing supply, and almost more than we build more apartments in a year.
But maybe it's true, but it's not. I don't know if it's the goal, or I don't think anyone is saying that office to multifamily conversion is going to be the silver bullet to solve like the housing problem.
Yeah,
I think we're saying that, it could potentially help.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's gonna, and it doesn't change the picture, but 2 to 3%. That is something.
Yeah, that's true.
That is like.
That is a lot
for a kind of steady growth market. That'd be a normal year, and so if you're adding additional supply, it could increase it by a third. Easily by a third. So it's not nothing.
True.
But bottom line, it's not a fix. It's not the solution for the housing crisis. It could be.
Good point. Very good point.
A solution, or a part of the solution for the question. What are we going to do with all this space? And I think that's really what cities and owners, investors are grappling with. Is we have these buildings. What do we do? They're littering our downtown.
Mm-hmm. So I think that you're using the word space is really key here. It's not necessarily, maybe the solution isn't a building level thing. And instead of converting office to apartments, they're calling for a more varied mix, like at the neighborhood level. Yes, they do argue for new buildings to be reused, but the most compelling point is where they're making, and they give examples of cities that were the least effective were ones where there is a mix of retail, of residential, and of office and workplaces all in the same place. This would take a lot in order to affect this change and bring in, a more varied presence.
Now it would be the time to do it, though.
Yeah, I totally think, and you could do this on a neighborhood by neighborhood level. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have to by fiat change everything. It's just if it works here, but it would take effort by local governments, businesses, resident stakeholders for zoning. But again, if your alternative is these empty office spaces, I don't see why that's not going to light a fire under some people.
And I think there's an article about. I forget which city it was, but I think it was Boston. You see the article? I think Andrew sent it to us.
I'll have to look at it.
It looks like Boston may be offering some major incentives, like a big break on your property taxes, up to 75% for office to multifamily conversions, because the economics don't really make sense. So they say, but we got to do something with these, and whether it's feasible or not, because I'm sure the city government leaders aren't really digging at how feasible it is. It's an idea, and let's throw it out here, see if anybody wants to do it. But there needs to be some economic incentive to make most of these deals pencil, because they just don't pencil economically. When you look at it, it'd be better just to knock the whole building down most of the time.
Yeah.
So it'll be, I think some cities are going to be, get really aggressive on it. I can see some cities, buying certain assets out, just outright, especially when they start to fall into special servicing and foreclosure, which is, that's the whole other part of the office story, is that values are down 30, 40, 50%. As their leases turn over, they're going to continue to turn over. They're either going to empty out, or the rates are going to go down.
Yeah.
And their loans are coming due. And so there's a lot of issues that's going to take place. And we reported on last episodes, it's going to be a couple of years as all of this continues to roll over, more and more kind of issues and distress. And what is the plan when this starts piling up and you've got, whole blocks of, distressed, real estate, that it's going to be, it can be a process to go through that.
Yeah.
Is a city going to come in and say, we want to either partner with a private group, or we're just going to come in here and buy all this pennies on the dollar, and so we can just control the process, which, there are going to be some poor unintended consequences, and maybe the redevelopment slows down because the cities get in the way. Hopefully it's the right balance of, public-private partnerships that speed things up, and get rid of red tape. But, each city's going to be different.
Yeah, I'd like kind of a carrot rather than a stick. I think that rezoning could really open up a lot of interesting options for people. And again, it's it's the same thing I'm sure, for the building level and for the neighborhood level. If you're looking for flexibility, it's going to probably cost a little bit more upfront. It's not going to be the most efficient solution, but it may be the most resilient solution. And again, like they keep really leaning on the word hybrid here, but to me, it sounds a whole lot like diversification. It's like you want to diversify your investments. So if one company goes down and you're only invested in that, then you're screwed.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, this piece is getting to a much larger point beyond like the future of hybrid work and are people are going to work hybridly or not. It gets into, and I don't know, maybe this was like scope creep of the piece, but it's like, you know what, our conclusion is we're going to have to completely redesign all the cities. That's basically what they're saying.
Heck yeah.
They're like, that's how maybe this is the lead magnet to city planners, not necessarily are the business owners, how the hybrid work. It's the city planners are like McKinsey things. We need to completely redesign everything, how we run the cities. Let's all, put them on whatever size retainer.
I'm glad that you settled on that those quadrants. I don't know what this little map here where it has the factors that they think lead to a particular market being vulnerable to this hybrid situation. Now they're on one level, there's on the y-axis, there's a business mix where if you have more workers in the knowledge economy, more large firms, more ratio of inbound commuters to residents, and cultural acceptance of remote work and necessary technology is a little lower, then that is going to make you a little more vulnerable. Now, on the other hand, on this x-axis, if you have more residences and stores, more green space, this flatter price gradient, then maybe you're going to survive. But if you have more office buildings, maybe it's just only office buildings and there's less green space, a little bit more dense, then it's going to be a little tougher. That was another point that they made too, is the denser cities had a little bit tougher of a go.
It's interesting just looking at, these factors relative to how these cities have been performing from a multifamily side. Yeah. And, I'm not as tied into how London is performing, but San Francisco has been, a big loser, in kind of just as a city recently. It's a really sad story, and we don't, have the time to get into it, but I mean, really been suffering, from the multifamily investor standpoint. New York City, I mean, there's all kind of challenges and problems with New York City, but it's really, unlike San Francisco, it really bounced back after the pandemic. And we're seeing in general, the Northeast has been doing pretty well in terms of, performance. And so I think some of that's correlated, not totally, but, when I see, one type of city has more residences and stores, flatter prices, more green space versus more office buildings, steeper prices and less green space.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. There are other
San Francisco's got a lot of green space. I know they're talking, but I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me on that one in particular.